Hello everyone, it's your host, SethTheProgrammer, and today we're going to be going over some Naruto versus Hunter x Hunter scaling today, and a lot of you guys liked my Meruem versus Phantom Troupe video. However, in that video, I didn't really need to go over calcs or anything of how the verse would stack up outside of its own, per se. Now, I've gotten a lot of suggestions for the Akatsuki versus the Phantom Troupe, which really isn't all that interesting, so I thought Gon and Killua, both Palace Invasion era of the Chimera Ant arc, and Naruto and Sasuke Part 1 Valley of the End, hashing it out would be a lot more fun, at least for me, in all honesty. So if you're wondering why we're doing part 1 Naruto and Sasuke instead of Hokage and Rinnegan variants, I seriously doubt you've even watched or read both of these shows. No offense, but come on. If you like content like this, by the way, maybe you've seen a few videos of mine in the past and never got around to it, I would really appreciate a like and a subscription. It means a lot and tells me what you guys want to see. Thank you. Now, first things first with Naruto and Sasuke in part 1 and their scaling is we need to go over Boruto. More specifically, the time travel arc in the anime. So why is the time travel arc important? Well, unlike most arcs, the time travel arc actually goes over part 1 Naruto scaling and actually has part 1 Naruto and Jiraiya face off against Urashiki. Urashiki, who in an anime promotional statement was quote-unquote revered as the strongest of his clan, blah blah blah. Now, whether or not you believe that is whatever. Maybe you think revered is only thought to be, isn't confirmed, but it can't be denied that if Urashiki truly was fighting all out against Naruto from part 1 and lost, that there's some serious scaling consequences, taking the miasma that is Otsutsuki and Boruto scaling and giving it to Naruto. Now, I have my own opinion of all of this, and I'm sure many who scale Naruto do as well, but this isn't the video for that. So for this video, I will simply be only using the Boruto manga continuity or Naruto manga only for this video, whatever gets you to think that whole set of events doesn't exist, which I think most of us wish was the case to begin with. Apologies for those that ends up getting triggered by that. Maybe in a future video I can go over that kind of stuff. And if you're one of those guys that thinks the Otsutsuki are all universe busters and part 1 Naruto scales to them, then sure, dude, Naruto wrecks Gon and Killua. Congratulations. Hope that makes you happy. Anyway, for my other viewers, we will not be using those arguments. Unfortunately, for a cross-verse battle video, you have to have feats and calcs and all of that boring nonsense. And I know it can be really boring to listen to and to listen to all the math and all that. So I'm going to oversimplify everything and mainly just give the feats in question and how much energy they are in tons. You can kind of scale how strong the feats are to each other with just these raw numbers. With that out of the way, let's get started. For Hunter x Hunter, scaling how strong characters are is pretty funky. I'm not going to act like it's some simple endeavor, but here we can pretty calmly scale base Gon and Killua, we'll do the transform states later, to a few Phantom Troupe members without much difficulty, if not putting them much higher. I explained this in my Phantom Troupe versus Meruem video, which I seriously recommend, by the way. The character in question they need to scale for some basic feat scaling is surprisingly Bonolenov. Now, many of you probably are aware that Bonolenov has a net ability called Battle Cantabile Jupiter, in which after performing a certain set of prerequisites, anybody that hears the sound of Bonolenov's body will be attacked by a Jupiter-looking ball. The one time this was used was on a Chimera Ant officer with no name. Not even joking, he doesn't actually have a name. And for a basic idea of its level of strength, if you assume the Chimera Ant officer that got hit by it is 1.7 meters tall, it's not really too important, the exact details, and that the crater caused by Jupiter was calced using maybe pulverization, which is basically turning everything to dust, then the amount of energy is around 109 tons. Now, this isn't lifting strength in tons, but raw energy. So for the video's sake, just consider these ton values as sort of like a power level, so I don't have to get too neckbeardy with my explanations here. I'll put the calcs and maybe like the energy in joules, blah blah blah, in the description. Obviously now I have to explain why Gon and Killua scale to such things. Gon after Kite's death is actually insanely powerful, as something in his body seemed to snap and his talent and potential went off the charts. This is described by Meleoron, also known as Jail, as a bottomless pit. The Databooks also agree, and many characters including even Neferpito or Glad and Gon using his potential against it in the end. and if he doesn't, Morel, an extremely powerful hunter who can fight Chimera Ant squadron leaders on the same tier as Zazan, although if anything even stronger due to having amps from Poof and Pito, tested Gon, and Gon, after witnessing Morel's full power, thinks he would have killed Morel in a single John Ken. This flex was so intense and bloodthirsty that Morel started to sweat and instantly recruited him. Morel, as I said earlier, can fight amped squadron leaders even while nerfed, yet Gon scared him to that extreme. Even Neferpito, upon seeing this potential in Gon, was pretty compliant in his demands and said his fangs might even reach the king. Even after Pito saved Komugi, it wanted to heal itself fully before even engaging him, prior to learning of his final Getsuga Tensho power-up, although it is stated that Pito could decapitate and kill Gon even with just one arm. Gon, even when suppressed and not nearly as powered up as he was versus Morel and Neferpito, was so strong that Chimera Ant officers like Bat, Hollow, and Snake jumping him and attacking him continuously couldn't even damage him, and ultimately they all got fodderized. Gon actually went so far as to punch Hollow across the entire country in one punch, one-shotted Bat by swinging a tree like a baseball bat, and tied up Snake like a shoelace around a tree. These are the same level of ants that Bonolenov used Jupiter on, getting handled like nothing. The worst part of Jupiter is that it doesn't even pulverize the nameless Chimera Ant officer it actually hit, whose body is almost fully intact on panel, whereas characters like Killua can blitz and rip off Chimera Ant officer Ramit's head before he can even realize what's happening with just his bare hands. So is it fair to say Gon and Killua, who can do all of this casually, Gon in particular being suppressed, scale to Bonolenov's Jupiter? Yes, absolutely, and I think most people would agree. It also makes sense because Gon and Killua are training and preparing themselves for Neferpito, the strongest adversary they have ever encountered, as stated in the manga volume descriptions, even stronger than Hisoka and Illumi, let alone random Chimera Ant officers that no one cares about. All in all, Killua ripping off Ramit's head is more impressive than Jupiter killing an officer, and we know that Gon in full rage actually scales to Killua's level of power using the databooks, both being around level 4 combatants in Nen. Now, whether or not Gon and Killua can create an area of effect like Bonolenov is not really the question. The question is whether or not their level of Nen and power scales to him, which we can confirm. They scale highly above officer level with no difficulty. They don't even really need to use abilities. One final point we can make to nail this in the coffin is Gon's level of power compared to Razor. Razor, for those that don't remember, is the game master of Greed Island that played dodgeball against Gon, Killua, and Hisoka. Razor is also noted by Finks of the Phantom Troupe as being impressive, and he's okay listening to Razor's orders and coming back the right way. The same guy who blew a Chimera Ant officer in half with a few windups of his punch not long later. Hisoka himself also comments that Razor is very impressive and is actually able to damage Hisoka in a 1v3 match with Gon, Killua, and Hisoka teaming up on him. This same Razor then states that Gon's John Ken enhanced dodgeball is so strong that he won't actually be able to stop it without getting shoved out of the ring. Gon, who at this point is a total novice with Nen and is just learning his more advanced powers, is able to do this to a guy who even makes Hisoka show a little bit of respect. Once again, saying Chimera Ant Arc psyched snapped Gon is able to output as much force as Bonolenov is really not that far-fetched. For speed, it gets pretty annoying, as if trying to scale Bonolenov's Jupiter to Gon isn't annoying enough already. I think this will be an interesting segment because many people surprisingly downplay Gon's speed and say that all of Killua's feats don't actually scale or translate to something Gon can do, thinking Gon is the Ooga Booga Punch Punch and Killua is the lightning fast Zip Zap. This is not exactly true. Even in the Hunter exams, one of the ways Togashi presents Gon as uniquely powerful and gifted is by his speed impressing everyone around him and him darting around somewhat like a gag character. But that is a little bit off topic. For Gon, he is a training partner of Killua, a rival. They make large strides together and their differences are in their net abilities, skills, and talents most of the time, not necessarily their raw stats. While Killua was definitely far superior to Gon in their first few encounters, to the point that Gon had to spend an arc training just to open Killua's front door, the gap significantly closed in all aspects by the time Greed Island had concluded, if not almost to zero. And this is shown in a few few notable examples, but a few would be like Killua saying he'd have his eye ripped out by Beanult if Beanult wasn't injured, in which post-training Gon dodges Beanult when he is healthy and recovered. Gon is also able to eventually capture the Hyper Puffball, a Green Island creature that Gon and Killua at first weren't able to catch for 10 minutes straight without more training. Once again, showing that Gon's speed is also a stat that rivals or encroaches on Killua's, outside of Killua amping it with his electricity later on, of course. In the Chimera Ant arc, Serious Gon is able to dodge Yuppie's attacks to try and reach Neferpito alongside Killua as well. So feats of Killua being able to rip Ramit's head off before he can even blink in base is something that Gon, when fully serious, full power, not suppressing himself, such as the palace invasion, can more than likely replicate. Perhaps not with the same finesse and skill, but at least the ability to perform similar speed and power. Now, of course, I am not saying Gon scales to Godspeed Killua in any ways, at least not in base. I'm only saying their base forms should be comparable. Killua, now that we've kind of gotten that out of the way, is able to dodge bullets that are less than 57 centimeters from his face, can move so fast that he creates after images, and generally blitzes and runs around most people in the series he fights. Killua himself is confident in fighting off tanks and even fighter jets if it really came down to it, and this is even before Killua plays the dart game to learn his Hurricane Swift Thunder reaction ability. Fighter jets being able to reach speeds of Mach 6 and their missiles also reaching a few Mach as well. It not only supports the idea that Killua has reaction speeds more than likely capable of fighting these things, but it also supports the idea that his Thunderbolt Nen ability, being an electricity charged attack, probably functions and moves similar in speed to an actual Thunderbolt. It can be argued that it easily has the energy requirements needed based on the scaling already outlined in this video alone, as lightning speed attacks in fiction are usually considered electricity based attacks with at least 1.6 gigajoules of energy behind them, using some quotes and papers done by NASA and Harvard, which I'll show on the screen now. For those that don't know, Bonolenov's Jupiter that couldn't even pulverize an ant completely would be around 608 gigajoules, let alone 1.6, or attacks from Killua that can easily rip apart Chimera officers. While I'm not saying that it's objective to say Killua's electricity, also known as Thunderbolt, is actually as fast as a Thunderbolt, it's very easy to argue considering what lightning actually is in nature, a super discharged jolt of electricity from the sky. Even Razor's extremely casual attacks can be scaled higher than a lightning bolt, let alone their full powers. And this is important to bring up because obviously people will downplay Gon and Killua to like subsonic, which is a huge meme in the community due to the fact that Netero is often hyped up in the series for punching faster than sound. However, the feats in the series do not support the speed of sound being remotely impressive. I think the most consistent interpretation is that Netero could do this without the use of his Nen, as this would make the statement both remain impactful, but ultimately not contradict what we've seen already. I mean, we see numerous guys react to bullets, scoff at missiles, jets, and tanks, and even throw electricity around, and yet the speed of sound is the top tier in the verse? Like, it doesn't really add up to me. Anyway, let's move on to Naruto for now. Fortunately for us, part 1 of Naruto isn't as hard as Hunter x Hunter unless you want to bring up some Boruto shenanigans. One of the easiest ways to scale Naruto in part 1 power-wise is by using Sasuke's fire style jutsu, Choji, Jirobo of the Sound 4, and Orochimaru's lesser snake summonings, weirdly enough. Jirobo and Choji actually have an interesting battle in terms of feats and even power scaling for part 1, which I'll be getting into. Sasuke at the beginning of the series, while definitely not a slouch, is no Itachi or Kakashi at his respective age. Yet we know that his fire style jutsu is insanely powerful, enough to make Kakashi think that no beginner ninja could even muster the chakra or power needed to actually perform it. During this Bell training test that he took, Sasuke shoots a fire style jutsu that vaporizes a crater in the ground, which not pulverizes into dust or blows away, but vaporizes the crater. And this is confirmed in the first data book, which states the massive flame engulfs and vaporizes everything. And the feat also looks like vaporization, if not heavy pulverization at worst, which really doesn't make that much sense as vaporization. Due to this, the fire style jutsu vaporizing a crater even in the first arc is around 18.5 tons of force. Definitely not the level of Bonolenov's Jupiter at over 100, but still overlooked for the very start of part 1 of Naruto. The feats get much more impactful during the tuning exams, however, when we see Naruto using Kyuubi chakra actually slam down and overpower Orochimaru's giant boa summoning in the Forest of Death. Orochimaru's boa has been calced to being around around 131 times bigger than a normal one, scaling its head off of Orochimaru's entire body sitting on top of it, with the cube of that being 2.27 million times. And if the bite of a boa is around 8 meters per second on videos of them attacking, like eating rats and so forth in quick succession, and this Orochimaru snake moved at a remotely similar speed, and Naruto blocked all of its energy from moving forward after striking at Sasuke, then this would be around the 3,822 ton range. And the feat is weird because it's kind of hard to put its full body weight into the calc, or say that the snake moves as fast as a normal boa considering its mass and wind resistance and blah blah blah. However, I would argue, if anything, it's actually much faster than a normal boa, as we've seen these same giant snakes actually catch Naruto, and saving Sasuke was considered a quick in the moment thing, where the giant boa was shown as almost a blur in the anime. Even at the beginning of the series, Naruto was blitzing thugs in the land of waves before they could even register he was there, and in which normal young adults are able to process things in roughly 1/75th of a second, couldn't process Naruto's movement or presence of his entire body in front of them. Not only that, he created a substitute of Inari, who he saved, and also saved his mother, bringing him behind the two before they could even process he was there as well, which has been calced around Mach 1, give or take. If these snakes could be considered remotely near the speed of Naruto, even normally, and these aren't normal snakes, they're Orochimaru ninja sage summoning snakes, let alone some of them catching him and he can't even get out of the way, then saying this snake is moving 8 meters a second is actually more than likely probably massive downplay, and the calc would still remain near where it was even considering the full body conversion. These snakes are also shown tearing places such as Tanzuku Castle to the ground, which has been calced consistently within the 100 to 1,000 ton range as well. Sasuke even scales to these, as later on he impresses Orochimaru far more than Naruto ever did with just this Sharingan active, and when he decides to go all out to protect Naruto and Sakura. Now getting into Jirobo is more of a power scaling thing, but Jirobo is able to launch a massive expansive jutsu Choji whose size eclipses trees and is stated mountain size in the data book, which I will not be using here, and launches him all the way above the tree line while in curse mark 2 state. If you argue he launched that high in around a second and that the trees are the height of an average tree, the force generated would be around 5.1 thousand tons, which would make curse mark 2 Jirobo consistently higher in terms of scaling than Naruto fighting Orochimaru's snake in the force of death. Adds up to me. And this is good as well, as Jirobo, while considered the physically strongest, is actually considered the weakest member of the Sound 4, despite the fact he can easily generate around the 5,000 tons of force mark, no difficulty. Usually if you can generate that much force, your body or the instrument exerting it usually has to be able to also somewhat withstand that much force, or else it would simply fall apart in the process, especially a physical action such as what Jirobo did. And even if you don't want to grant that, the fact that defeating Jirobo is possible for the other members is pretty outstanding, with Neji and others fighting off stronger members, and with Naruto and Sasuke pretty confidently scaling above Neji without much of a hitch, at least by the final valley confirmed, let alone in the tuning exams where, you know, they fought. In terms of speed, we already went over how Naruto, even in the first arc, reached over Mach 1 just dealing with normal bums. However, later we see Naruto and Sasuke start to scale to characters like Neji, Gaara, and Lee, and these are impressive because Lee without weights is able to outspeed Gaara's sand defense, something that even as a crotch spawn was able to react and block explosions at point blank. Even if you assume these super ninja explosions are something at least bare bones basic like TNT, this feat would be calced around Mach 29, with Naruto and Sasuke both scaling to much more powerful forms of Gaara with his Bijou amps. Sasuke himself was able to match Rock Lee's speed that outclassed the basic sand defenses without even using his Sharingan or 10 times amplified curse mark, and this isn't even bringing up the obvious lightning timer scaling that is commonly argued about, in which the Chidori is based on the Raikiri and hyped up by the cast as the jutsu Kakashi chopped the lightning bolt in half with. And while this doesn't necessarily mean that Sasuke's Chidori is lightning speed, it should be noted that Choji is also stated to expand at the speed of lightning, and that Kido Mado's final arrow he shot at Neji actually reach the speed of lightning as well. So it definitely wouldn't be inconsistent to say so, and it was definitely Kishimoto hyping up the speed of the attack. That's obviously the intention behind them bringing up the actual statement, lightning chopping, right? And with those stats out of the way, it's pretty clear that for the most part, Naruto and Sasuke are pretty superior to Gon and Killua, at least base to base, and to a pretty considerable degree. Even if you don't grant lightning speed to Naruto and Sasuke, which I don't really care if you do or don't, Killua's feats and base don't really encroach on Mach 29 without his Godspeed amps, and their actual power feats don't really ever seem to reach the kiloton range for the most part. I've seen some argue that Nen attacks your psyche if someone flexes on you and you don't have any defenses against it. However, Ninja and Naruto fight off psychological attacks all the time, and chakra is actually spiritual and mental in nature as well as physical. So unless Nen attacks some part of your being or some fundamental nature not covered throughout the series in Naruto, I see no reason to really address this as a valid concern, and it seems kind of like a no limits fallacy to say it just works on anybody. We also see later on that hunters get taken out and beat by chimera ants that don't even have Nen when they themselves do, and Hunter x Hunter sometimes raw strength is enough to overcome a Nen difference. Go figure. It's not some infinite and unstoppable force if you yourself don't have it, nor is it ever hyped up or portrayed to be that way. It's more so explained that someone with Nen is like an adult and someone without it is like a child. Gon and Killua also aren't really known to use Nen in this form anyway, as it's mainly only shown used by Illumi and by Hisoka when he flexed on Gon and Killua to not join the Heaven's Arena tournament without Nen because they'd get annihilated. But what about Godspeed and Gon's adult form? Luckily for us, and for me, these are a lot more straightforward. In Godspeed's case, you can actually scale it to the Royal Guard, and there is some contention with it being scaled to light speed based on the dart game Killua played when discovering it. However, Killua disagrees with the assertion as he knew where the dart was going to be to begin with. He didn't actually react to it appearing in his forehead like the ants who said it would need to be light speed thought. And so Killua himself is debating the light speed claim. Neferpitou in its first introduction is shown sitting atop the chimera ant nest prowling for intruders, which massively towers above nearby trees, making them almost brush-like in comparison. It then spots Kite, Killua, and Gon, and before Gon and Killua can even register what's happening, Kite's arm is torn off and when Pitou is in close range, which has been calced as anywhere between Mach 40 and Mach 250-ish, depending on who you ask. And this is an ultra casual Pitou. A more serious Pitou, an example, was directly stated to be using exactly double the force it did to leap after the king in danger than it did to leap at Kite and the others, putting its speed probably more in the Mach 80 through 500 range. And while I still think Killua being lightning speed is very fair to say, even with downplay, he should be in Neferpitou's range, if not superior, as he was blitzing Youpi like nothing, who couldn't even see him move, and even Poof, a more evolved ant than Youpi at the time, because Youpi was still learning his Nen abilities, stated his full body probably couldn't keep up with Killua's Godspeed. Killua's Godspeed is also stated in the Shueisha Jump Remix character guide as being beyond the limitations of normal speed and is generally considered a top speed in the entire verse, possibly only being stopped by the unnatural Rose Meruem, Adult Gon, and Netero's Guanyin Bodhisattva. Although Netero is very debatable, we also know that Adult Gon scales to Godspeed and Pitou, as obviously Gon absolutely toyed with Pitou like nothing, even by being amped by post-mortem Nen and moving so fast that Godspeed could barely process what was happening. Gon still annihilated the Royal Ant, and in the Yu Yu Hakusho character guide, Shueisha Jump Remix, which is a limited edition guide in addition to a Yu Yu Hakusho guide by Togashi, which I had to go out of my way to obtain a copy of myself directly from Japan and translate myself. You're welcome. There's actually 4 pages at the very end dedicated to Hunter x Hunter scaling outside of just stat bubbles. They go over Adult Gon, Netero, and Rose Meruem, and I honestly think it's game changing, and I've never seen these scans anywhere else on the internet or translated, so do enjoy. Now, while these pages say a lot, this one in particular is my favorite line on the Adult Gon page, which says, towards Pitou, who held a strength second only to the king's, he displayed an even higher power on a completely different league. Not only does this state that Pitou is the strongest royal guard, but it also states that Pitou might just straight up be number 3 in the entire series, behind Meruem and Gon, obviously. The statement is also interesting because it can be interpreted 2 ways. It can either be interpreted as Gon was in a completely different league than Pitou, which is obvious, or that Gon displayed power in a completely different league than Meruem and Pito altogether. I'd personally say that Gon was probably superior to base Meruem, at least in terms of raw power. However, it might just be possible that Gon might have, even if just by a little bit, or with his John Ken amps. This is important because adult Gon's power will be being scaled to Rose Meruem in a moment, which I will explain. Rose Meruem is essentially Meruem revitalized by Poof and Yuppie after the Rose Bomb went off in his fight with Netero and he was almost killed. This brought Meruem back to a level that convinced Poof and Yuppie that you could win a battle with just raw Nen alone. Meruem also obtains Yuppie's Rage Cannon, and with it shoots a blast that pulverizes a large hill in the distance. Some argued it vaporized it or fragmented it, and I've seen some downplay and wank of this, so we'll just be using the middleman, and the middleman comes out to around 450,000 tons of force. I say that Gon scales to Rose Meruem, even if not exactly, to at least somewhat of a reasonable extent. What I mean is, I don't think that adult Gon would be in the 100-ton range, and Rose Meruem is in the 400,000 plus range when it comes to power scaling. It's a little bit of a rationalist approach, but it doesn't really make sense in any way thematically or logically to disagree. Rose Meruem in essence is basically revived Meruem plus Poof plus Yuppie, who Gon scales to all of, if not surpassing all of. As shortly after adult Gon is revealed, Rose Meruem is revealed, and the conversation of winning a fight with pure aura is discussed, something that Gon pretty much did with Pito already, the strongest of the royal ants. Rose Meruem was also so powerful that Knuckles stated they'd need a state military to even handle him, and that everyone needs to flee as he shot around his speed of light and all over the place. Now, as I said, you can say Rose Meruem absolutely obliterates adult Gon. That's perfectly fine. I'm just saying adult Gon is definitely not infinitesimally smaller than Rose Meruem in any form. That being said though, adult Gon would more than likely ragdoll base Naruto and Sasuke if you are charitable in your interpretations. With Godspeed Killua a bit more debatable, as Killua isn't really shown actually scaling power wise to any full power royals, only more so scaling with speed. With Yuppie stating even without Nen abilities he was easily over 10 times stronger than Godspeed, although if you want to use a similar argument we use for adult Gon just on a far lesser scale, it might be logical that Killua is probably not infinitesimally weaker to the royals either, but he certainly gets stomped pretty easily by them. And now that we've done that, what about Naruto and Sasuke's full abilities? As we know with Naruto and Sasuke, they have a one-tailed QB Chakra Cloak, the Cursed Seal of Heaven level 2, Gamabunta summoning, Naruto Rage Amps, and Naruto's full power, which is displayed against Gaara. Naruto is a character with insane amounts of chakra. It's so vast that Neji didn't think anybody had a chakra as large as Kid Naruto's until he met an Akatsuki member named Kisame in Shippuden. It can be argued that Naruto isn't ridiculously overpowered all the time because he doesn't actually know how to use his chakra all too well. This would also explain why Naruto, when he takes Haku's lessons of becoming truly powerful when you're protecting those close to you, was able to suddenly tango with transformed Gaara, a beyond Jonin level Jinchuriki that can manifest his entire tail beast that Naruto fought alongside Gamabunta. Yet later on, Naruto can barely summon a small toad in the Sannin Showdown, or how enraged Naruto is able to take down Haku, a Kekkei Genkai user that Zabuza claimed that Kakashi couldn't even take down, and Zabuza having fought Kakashi himself and arguably having defeated him in their first encounter. Haku was also later on reanimated and can block attacks from both Might Guy and Rock Lee at the same time while nerfed, and could still blitz War Art Kakashi using his lightning blade. Might Guy being stated to be a match for anyone in the Akatsuki and the Databooks, who would soon save Kakashi from Ten Tails Madara with a linear amp from his gates, and Kakashi, who in the past had already fought and reacted both Kakuzu and Pain, yet couldn't see Haku's Ice Mirror blitz despite training to use his Sharingan in unison with his lightning blade so they could perceive every moment perfectly, alongside minor movement precognition, and to simply not mess up his timing the way he did against Rock Jonin in the Great Ninja War, blah blah blah. Yet here's Naruto not only dodging attacks and blitz attempts from a stronger Haku's Ice Mirror, but straight up one-shotting him without almost any problems or jutsu. The only problem I could see with that is that Haku might get amped when Zabuza is in danger, as he suggested Naruto protecting people amps him, but otherwise it's a serious feat for Naruto regardless. Now I've seen some people try to scale base Sasuke to Haku and use it to downplay Haku. However, obviously we know from Zabuza that Haku was not actually going all out versus Sasuke and Naruto in base. However, he does state that there is absolutely no way for him to defeat Naruto when Naruto is enraged, so it does still scale, and Zabuza himself also confirms that Naruto is beyond anything he thinks Kakashi can muster, so it is thematically consistent. Gamabunta himself is good scaling for Naruto's arsenal because not only did he fight the One Tails, but but he actually also pinned down the Nine Tails in the past as well with Minato. Gamabunta is a rival of Manda, the Sage Snake, and was able to damage him and fight against him alongside Jiraiya. Manda is a summoning creature that, when around, Kabuto is scared for Orochimaru's life due to not having any jutsu, meaning Kabuto himself isn't confident in fighting Manda either. Jiraiya at this point is at 30% power, with him and Orochimaru somewhat fighting back and forth, with Jiraiya being stated as an equal to Orochimaru when they're at full power, and Orochimaru being the person who is confident in fighting the third Hokage, the strongest Kage alive at the time, and has seen all of the villages and has spies everywhere throughout them, meaning with his summonings and his own power, he is confident in taking on a person who scales above the fourth Raikage, who scales above perfect Jinchuriki Killer B at this point. So even if Manda and Gamabunta are possibly weaker than the Sannin when they're at full power, scaling to 30% is still pretty insane for them. We've also seen Gamabunta fight off Nagato's summoning and survive attacks from Tendo Pain, although with serious damage, and this kind of validates his fight against the One Tails, in which while the One Tails wasn't at full power, it probably still was almost around Bijou level, if not already there, and their mere battle and clashes was like natural disasters that would change the entire landscape if it didn't stop. The Bijou obviously have insane feats, which even when downplayed to only being able to vaporize mountains or large portions of land, can easily reach the 4.3 billion tons range with some of the lowest interpretations. It should also be noted that the Akatsuki that Kakashi scales to pretty well are all designed to be able to take down Jinchuriki, some of which can transform into full Bijou, including Yugito, who Kakuzu fought. So the fact that Naruto, while enraged and QB amped, might scale to Kakashi is insane, which makes sense considering Guy and Kakashi are supposed to be rivals, yet Guy's kicks couldn't even stop nerfed Haku, who Naruto one-shotted with a punch. Even if you want to say he doesn't scale to them like that while enraged, he does scale above Kabuto and Part 1 Kakashi without much argument. And what I'm saying here is that Naruto is a lot like Gon in the sense that once he gets to a certain mindset, he's almost a completely different character with different scaling. You can almost say that Naruto in his fight with Haku is possibly even more insane than his fight with Sasuke due to this rage amp. It's certainly debatable, and I've had the debate before. And wielding a chakra from the strongest tail beast who's supposed to go up against Rinnegan Obito and faces the world-ending Jubi, is it really any shocker that even Naruto having slivers of this thing's power would amp him to extremely high levels? And in terms of speed, Naruto is able to catch Haku, who can move between his ice mirrors at the speed of light when going all out, and is stronger and faster than Kakashi, who can catch and chop lightning bolts with his running speed and Raikiri even when drained of chakra as a teenager. Naruto also gets a Curse Mark II kind of like amp with his one-tailed cloak and can blitz people who scale to lightning more than likely many times over. So in terms of speed, Naruto should confidently scale to lightning at bare minimum, even being a little strict if not many times over. And you'll notice that I keep saying Naruto and not Sasuke, and that's because unlike Naruto, Sasuke has never really shown having these insane rage and friendship amps like Naruto has, and Naruto might have not actually have been drawing on some of the powers he used in the past against Sasuke. It's a little bit more in the air, but if you want to put Sasuke on Naruto's level, that is fine too. In conclusion, summoning Gamabunta, Naruto speed, Nine Tails chakra, and possibly insane power scaling is way too much for Hunter x Hunter for now. And like I said, I'm not saying that Gamabunta is Bijou level. I'm just saying scaling to 30% Jiraiya and Orochimaru, who are probably stronger than perfect Jinchuriki, is kind of already enough needed to scale them even remotely to Bijou. And even if you said they're 1,000 times weaker than Bijou, you know, 100,000 times, it's still above Adult Gon's and Meruem scaling, who we were already charitable with for Adult Gon anyway. I think thematically speaking, if they are in the same universe, Adult Gon would be way stronger than Naruto at this point, as he's supposed to pretty much rival the Madara of Hunter x Hunter, whereas Naruto is just kind of competing with like super strong Jonin, if that makes sense. But I think the Naruto burst panders more to power scaling and feats than Hunter x Hunter does, unfortunately, so it's kind of hard to give them the win here. Anyways guys, I hope you enjoyed. I put a lot of work into this one, believe me, having to order and look up weird guides, calcs, and all that kind of nonsense. So if you did enjoy it, I'd really appreciate a like and a subscription, seriously. Also, if you have any more suggestions you guys want, maybe you want more content like this in the future, let me know. And other than that, until next time.